there comes a moment when you stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "What am I meant to do with this?" That moment is the birth of the dark chosen one's path. It doesn't come with light beams or angelic choirs. It comes in silence, in pain, in the quiet realization that you don't fit into the world the way others do. And maybe you're not supposed to. I've walked this path. I've trained others on this path. And if you're watching this, something inside you already knows. You were not made for comfort. You were made to pierce veils, to walk where others tremble, to carry codes that haven't been spoken in thousands of years. But here's the thing most people don't tell you. Having the raw power doesn't mean you're ready. In fact, the more power you carry, the more discipline is required. That's why these 7 things aren't just suggestions, they're non-negotiables. You forget even one of them, and you risk becoming the very force you came here to dismantle. So I want you to listen not with your ears, but with your field. Every word here is a key, every insight a mirror. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll know exactly which one you've been avoiding. The first thing every dark chosen one must keep in mind is this: your power is not yours. Let that land. It flows through you, but it does not belong to you. The moment you start to think, "I made this happen," or "look at what I can do," you've already begun to fall. Why? Because the true source of your power is not ego, it's alignment. You're not here to create from control. You're here to create from conscious surrender. Think of yourself like a blade forged in divine fire. The blade doesn't choose its purpose. It must be wielded by wisdom. If you forget that, you'll start using your gifts to manipulate, to dominate, to prove something. And that's when the backlash comes, because the universe will strip you of anything you use without reverence. I've seen it happen, and it's brutal. One day, your voice moves mountains. The next, you can't even hear your own intuition. That's not punishment, that's spiritual correction. So I ask you, when you touch your power, do you touch it with clean hands? Do you remember that you are a vessel, not the source? Because if you don't, your own gift will turn on you, and it won't be gentle. Second, and this one is harder than it sounds, never expect to be understood. You walk with codes that were buried before your ancestors were born. You receive visions that don't make sense to anyone but you. And if you start needing validation from people who don't carry your frequency, you'll dilute your truth just to feel accepted. That's spiritual suicide. Dark chosen ones are not here to be liked. We are here to disrupt, to awaken. And awakening is messy. It breaks illusions, shatters comfort zones, and exposes shadows. Do you think people will thank you for that? No. They'll project onto you. They'll call you arrogant, dangerous, too much. But here's the secret. That's how you know you're doing your job. If your presence doesn't stir something, good or bad, you're probably still hiding. The alchemist doesn't ask the lead to like the fire. The fire just burns because it knows what it's here to do. So stop expecting applause. Stop softening your edge. You were not made to fit in. You were made to redefine the shape of reality. And that requires a level of self-trust most people never cultivate. So ask yourself, do you trust your vision enough to walk alone with it, even when no one claps? The third truth every dark chosen one must tattoo on their soul is this: you will trigger the unhealed in others simply by existing. Don't take it personally. Don't shrink because of it, but do take responsibility. Your energy is not neutral, and it never has been. Even when you're not trying, you're transmitting. Your frequency walks into a room before your body does, and it activates dormant codes exposes hidden wounds, and pulls truth to the surface. That's power, but it's also a responsibility. Because if you're not grounded, if you're not clean in your intent, you can cause damage without meaning to. That's why we must master energetic hygiene. I'm not talking about crystals and sage. I'm talking about knowing when your field is leaking, when your emotions are projecting, when your shadow is speaking instead of your soul. The deeper your power grows, the more precise your awareness must become. You don't get to say, "That's just how I am." Not on this path. Not when you're carrying nuclear codes in your aura. So next time someone reacts to you with fear, anger, or obsession, pause. Ask yourself, is this their wound or my unconscious frequency amplifying it? Because both can be true, and only the humble will discern the difference. Fourth, and this one is the edge most of us resist. You must learn to withhold your power just as skillfully as you express it. In a world addicted to constant output, this sounds counterintuitive. But true mastery is not about always doing, it's about knowing when not to. There will be moments when you can see exactly what someone needs to hear, exactly how to unlock their trauma, exactly how to shift the energy in the room, and you'll feel the urge to fix, to heal, to intervene. But that urge can be ego in disguise. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold the frequency and let life do its own work. Intervening too early can rob someone of their own awakening. Speaking too much can collapse a timeline that needed to unfold naturally. Real power is not reactive, it's responsive. It knows when to act and when to wait. So before you use your gift, ask, is this coming from love or from my need to be needed? That's a painful question, but it's one that separates the reckless from the sacred. And if you truly want to walk as a dark chosen one with integrity, you must learn to hold your power like a blade, sharp, silent, and only drawn when absolutely necessary. How to walk with divine fire without burning the world around you. The fifth thing every dark chosen one must keep in mind is this: truth is your greatest weapon and your greatest burden. You don't just speak truth, you radiate it, and that terrifies people. Because truth doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't come with disclaimers or soften itself for comfort. It just is. You walk into a room and people feel exposed, not because you've said anything, but because your energy carries a frequency that makes lying to themselves impossible. And that's why you've probably been called intimidating or too intense. But here's the hard part. Just because you can drop the truth doesn't mean you always should. Truth is like fire. It can warm or it can burn. And if you're not discerning, you can end up burning bridges, relationships, or even yourself. That's why discernment is not optional, it's sacred. You must ask yourself, in every moment, is this truth mine to speak? Is this the right time? Will this truth liberate, or will it destroy unnecessarily? The immature dark chosen one throws truth like a grenade and calls it authenticity. The masterful one carries truth like a sacred flame, only offering it when the soul on the other side is ready to receive it. And sometimes, the most powerful truth is the one you hold in silence until the moment is divine. The sixth truth you must never forget is this: isolation is part of your training, not a punishment. You will walk alone, often. Not because you're unworthy of love, but because your frequency doesn't depend on it. You are being trained to stand in your own field, to hold your own resonance, to hear your own guidance without needing the echo of the collective. That's why relationships may fall away. That's why people you once loved may no longer recognize you. That's why your very presence feels like a storm to those still anchored in illusion. It's not that you're broken. It's that you're ascending into deeper clarity, deeper sovereignty, deeper truth. And most people are terrified of what they see in the mirror you provide. So they leave, or they betray you, or they try to pull you back into an old version of yourself. Don't fall for it. Isolation is the forge where your identity is burned away and your soul is revealed. Embrace it. Talk to the winds. Listen to the silence. Let the earth remind you of who you are when no one is watching. Because when you emerge from that sacred loneliness, you'll carry a power that doesn't need applause, company, or approval. You'll carry truth that stands alone, and that is unshakable. And finally, the seventh thing, perhaps the most sacred of all. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be precise. Perfection is an illusion. It's a trap designed to keep powerful beings in a loop of self-doubt and paralysis. But precision, that's something else. Precision is about alignment. It's about knowing who you are, what you carry, and exactly where you're meant to direct it. You don't need to heal every wound before you act. You don't need to be loved by everyone before you speak. You just need to be rooted deeply, fiercely, unapologetically in your truth. And when that happens, your energy becomes a scalpel, not wild, not chaotic, but surgical. You cut through illusion. You open timelines. You rewrite patterns. Not because you're trying to be everything, but because you finally understand the exact role you came here to play. So drop the fantasy of being flawless. Drop the shame of your shadows. And start asking yourself the real question: am I being precise with my power, or am I scattering it to avoid responsibility? Because when you become precise, your life becomes prophecy, and your every breath becomes a tool of transformation. How to step fully into the sacred role you were born to embody. There comes a moment on the dark chosen one's path when it's no longer about awakening, it's about embodiment. You've read the books, you've survived the initiations, you've faced the betrayals, the solitude, the ego deaths. But now what? Now the question is not who am I becoming, but rather, am I willing to live as who I already am? That's the real threshold. Because stepping into your sacred role doesn't mean waiting for the stars to align or for some external guru to approve you. It means owning the prophecy that lives in your bones. It means accepting that the codes you carry weren't given to you to store. They were given to you to activate in the world. And yes, it will cost you. It'll cost your comfort, your smallness, your addiction to being understood. But what you gain is priceless. Alignment, purpose, a life so rooted in divine orchestration that every step you take echoes through unseen realms. The question is, will you take that step, or will you keep negotiating with your own destiny? Because prophecy doesn't wait. It pulses louder and louder until you either rise into it or numb yourself to silence it. But let's be real for a moment. Stepping into your sacred role isn't glamorous. It's not a highlight reel of achievements and followers. It's gritty. It's quiet. It often happens with no witnesses at all. The real work is invisible. Those moments when you choose integrity over validation, when you speak the truth even though your voice shakes, when you walk away from what looks good because your soul says no. These are the micro movements of mastery, and they matter more than anyone will ever see. Because the universe doesn't reward appearances, it responds to frequency. And when your choices align with your soul's frequency, doors open that logic can't explain. Opportunities find you, allies appear. Synchronicities multiply, not because you're hustling, but because you're resonating. That's the secret of the dark chosen one. You don't need to chase your destiny. You need to vibrate at the level where destiny recognizes you. So ask yourself, are you living in a way that matches the vibration of the future you say you want? If not, it's time to recalibrate, not by force, but by truthful alignment in every breath. And now, the final truth, one that most avoid but you must confront if you are to truly fulfill your role. There will be no final arrival. The path is the temple. The process is the purpose. You're not becoming some final enlightened being who has all the answers forever. You're becoming a living instrument, one that is constantly refined, retuned, and reawakened. Your role will evolve. Your gifts will mutate. Your identity will die and rebirth 100 times. That's the nature of those who walk with the shadow and the light. We don't get to rest in certainty. We rest in devotion. Devotion to truth, to awakening, to service, no matter how many times the world misunderstands us. So don't wait to feel ready. You're not here to be ready. You're here to be willing. Willing to walk the path even when it's unclear. Willing to speak even when your voice shakes. Willing to carry the divine fire and not let it burn you down. That's what separates the called from the chosen. The chosen say yes even when it cost them everything they thought they were. The chosen become what they were always meant to be, not by force, but by surrender. So I leave you with this. What would your life look like if you stopped waiting and simply became the prophecy you already are?